The powerful United States Navy has just intercepted the third Iranian oil tanker, which was under the command of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. In a powerful interception like a scene straight out of a movie, the difference is that this is happening in real life, and now, this Thursday, April 23, 2023. I'm going to tell you all about this, but right now, you'll want to be subscribed to the channel to stay well informed. Real-time information with the best journalistic quality ever seen from the trusted Milson Alves News. The pressure has risen again in the Gulf. And what stands out most right now is straightforward. The United States has started intercepting Iranian oil tankers in Asian waters, tightening the siege on the Tehran regime and showing that the dispute has escalated to a new level. This Thursday, April 23, 2026, the news now circulating is focused on this moment, a move seen as a clear leap in military and economic pressure. Because the oil route has become the center of the crisis, and financial strangulation now goes hand in hand with pressure at sea. The target this time was the tanker Majestic X, identified by American authorities as a vessel involved in transporting Iranian oil. In the news that's circulating, the action is already being described as the third major naval blow in this sequence. Precisely at the moment when the ceasefire lost political momentum, the talks stalled, and what seemed like a path to accommodation turned into yet another source of tension. What happened was straightforward and serious. United States forces carried out a maritime interdiction and boarded the ship in the waters of the Indian Ocean, far from the most volatile point of the Strait of Hormuz. This matters because it shows a change in pattern. Instead of waiting for the crisis to erupt only inside the world's most dangerous choke point, Washington started targeting vessels linked to Iranian oil on more open routes as well, trying to reduce the risk of mines, fast attacks, and total chaos in the strait. Reuters reported that this approach had already been showing up in recent interceptions, with Iranian ships being diverted or monitored near India, Malaysia, and Sri Lanka. The strongest aspect here is the footage of the operation. The Department of Defense released a video showing US military personnel already on the deck of the Majestic X. It's not an abstract propaganda scene. It's a concrete record of boarding the vessel, taking control of it, and securing it. That's where the event gains visual weight. The video doesn't just show a statement, it shows physical presence. It shows that the siege has moved from words to action. For the public, this simply translates what's at stake. The ship was intercepted, stopped, and subjected to a real maritime operation. According to the statement released by American authorities, the operation was a maritime interdiction with the right to visit and board a sanctioned vessel described as having no valid nationality. In simple terms, this means that the United States claims grounds to stop the ship, board it, and inspect its operation, considering it part of a network that supports the flow of Iranian oil under sanctions. The American government also stated that it will continue this kind of global enforcement to disrupt illicit routes and deny freedom of movement to vessels that, in Washington's view, provide material support to Iran. This third move didn't come out of nowhere. On Sunday, April 19th, the United States had already seized the cargo ship Tosca near the Hormuz area in the first interception since the beginning of the naval blockade against Iranian ports. After that, Reuters revealed that at least 3 more Iranian oil tankers were diverted or intercepted in Asian waters. The Majestic X fits precisely into this scenario of increasing pressure. That's why Thursday's action shouldn't be seen as an isolated episode, but as part of a broader campaign to strangle maritime traffic linked to Iranian oil. And here's an explosive detail. For China, the impact of this is devastating, because it hits precisely one of the cheapest and most useful sources of oil for its refineries. In 2025, Chinese buyers absorbed more than 80% of the oil exported by Iran, averaging 1.38 million barrels per day. This volume represented about 13.4% of China's seaborne oil imports. When interrupted by seizures, sanctions, and blockades, Beijing is forced to seek more expensive and often lighter barrels from other routes. This squeezes margins, reduces the production of diesel and jet fuel, and puts pressure on the entire industrial machinery. Reuters reported this week that the crisis has already brought Asian imports down to their lowest level in 10 years and led Chinese refineries to make significant cuts. Meanwhile, the Chinese government itself announced new measures to diversify purchases and strengthen stockpiles, a clear sign that the shock is real and hits at the heart of energy security. A very clear group is at the center of this story. On one side, the naval forces and military structures of the United States. On the other, the maritime system used to keep Iranian oil moving. In the middle of this are Donald Trump, U.S. Central Command, the Department of Defense, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, and the major trade routes that cross the region. It's no longer just a verbal threat. Reuters reported that 29 vessels have already been instructed to turn back or return to port as part of this blockade operation. This shows the scale of the siege, and it helps to understand why the capture of Majestic X is seen as a harsh message and not just any ordinary seizure. The background is even more explosive because one day before this capture, the Revolutionary Guard attacked 3 cargo ships in the Strait of Hormuz and seized 2 of them. The American response came soon after, intensifying a spiral that had already been undermining any attempt to revive diplomacy. The AP reported that the seizure of the Majestic X took place amid confusion over the end of the war, the weakening of talks, and the hardening of Trump's rhetoric. In other words, the agreement that promised to ease the crisis did not hold. It lost momentum the moment the sea once again became an arena of direct confrontation. There is also an important strategic detail in this operation involving the third ship. By reaching the Majestic X in the Indian Ocean, the United States shows that it does not rely solely on pressure in Hormuz to choke off this flow. They can act earlier, in wider areas, putting pressure on the Iranian oil logistics chain far from the most congested point. Reuters highlighted that one of the reasons for this repositioning is to avoid the risk of floating mines and other dangers in more confined waters. In practice, Washington is trying to turn every tanker linked to Tehran into a permanent problem, not just an occasional exception. In the end, the main focus is here. The United States not only announced another seizure, but also showcased the operation. And that changes the tone of the news coverage. The public doesn't just hear a statement from the cabinet. They see the blockade materializing. They see a ship being intercepted. They see that the blockade has expanded after the political agreement collapsed, and the reason is clear. Washington wants to cut off revenue, to restrict movement, and to show that after the collapse of the agreement, it's now US naval power that's applying the pressure. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and at the end, check out the comments so you can be even more engaged with the Milson Alves news community.